Hey there everyone, it's Baka here, and welcome to this week's Friday video. I mentioned on Tuesday that I was thinking of splitting it up into 2 different days, and this is what's going to happen. On Tuesdays, you're going to get your Wide World of Geek, where we're going to talk about current news, reviews, different things that are happening in the world of geek. On Fridays, we're going to have something slightly different, pretty special here, I think. It's going to be a Friday workshop. Now, what this means is for multiple weeks, we might be looking at the same type of thing, something creative, something where might be it'll hopefully be something I know, but something that you can learn about and that you can then go on to do yourself, do better. So yeah. Now, starting this week, this is going to be part 1 of the Friday workshop, and it's going to be called Becoming a Better Writer. Now, in my spare time, I do work as a writer. I have written and produced a play. I have submitted that play for publication. I've submitted a sci-fi fantasy story for publication. I'm working on other short stories, novels, comics. I've done a lot of work in the writing field. Shockingly, since I was an art major in college, and that's what I teach. But I was originally an English major. Love writing. The biggest issue that I have seen with student writing, with if you want to call it amateur writing, or those people that are just kind of in it to be in it, is that their story's not carefully planned out. It's just kind of rushed through. Especially with my students, I have this problem. Now, I do a project every year with my Introduction to 2D art class, and that's an illustration project. In this project, they have to create a story, and then they have to draw a picture to go along with the story. And I leave it wide open for them. I allow them to use photography as part of their project. I allow them to turn it into a comic, either comic book or comic strip. But they have to have this story, and I want that to be the first thing they do. Genre is wide open. Science fiction, fantasy, mystery, thriller, real life, comedy, whatever they want. But some of the rules that we go through work in all of these different types of genres. It's just basic writing. Now, there are 3 things that are fundamental to creating a proper story. And the first one is your characters. You need to have good characters. Characters are the focal point of your story. If you've got good characters, it's going to make people want to come back for more, because they're going to have a vested interest in these characters. You don't care about a story if you don't care about the characters. The action could be as cool as you want, the locations could be beautifully written about, but if you don't care about those characters, there's nothing to want to come back to. This would be more of a book review, but there's a book out there that Sword and Laser did last month as their book of the month, called Tagana. Now, Tagana is a very well-written book. The author is great at world building. You learn all about the different world. You find out about the motivations behind his characters. You find out, the action, while it's slow-paced, it builds and builds and builds until you finally have a climax. The one thing he doesn't really care about, though, are making his characters deep. You've got to have deep characters. The second one is your setting. This is your world. What is the area around your characters look like? I don't care if it's the forest, if it's a medieval castle, if it's the city, if it's steampunk, if it's modern, if it's futuristic, if it's wilderness, whatever. Describe it though. Make it real. You're not necessarily using pictures to describe your words, so your words need to be descriptive. The third thing is the action. And in my opinion, this is actually the least important of the three criteria. Why? Because if you've got good characters and you've got a good setting, the action falls into place almost automatically. Now, that being said, you do need to take the time to plan out what's happening. Without knowing what your characters are there for, your character descriptions are going to be weak. The empathy that people can feel for these characters without knowing their plight, without knowing what they're there for, doesn't happen. So the action is there to motivate your characters, to move them along. And so in my opinion, that's what the most part is. Now, there are authors out there who hit each three of these things in a perfect balance. George R. R. Martin, his Song of Ice and Fire series. He's got specific characters that he follows, and he explains everything they do, everything they wear, what they look like, what their character is like, what their thoughts are, in great detail. He's created this world with differing climates, differing feels. You've got the people of the north. You've got Winterfell in the north. They're used to bad weather. They're used to snow. You've got the Dothraki in the desert. You've got what are their names? Well, you've got sea-bound people. You've got city-bound people. And each of these areas are very deeply described. And the action is maybe not non-stop, but it's continuous. And you find out what the action does to each character that is being followed. And when things happen, like characters die, you get really invested in that. You're like, holy crap, I can't believe they just killed him. But that's what the story, that's when you know you have a good story, when you have those holy crap moments. Now, this next section is for beginning writers, or for writers if you have an artist block. I give this advice to my students as they're writing a story, because a lot of them go, well, I don't know what to write about. I don't have anything I want to write about. So this is what I have you do. Take the three things that I previously mentioned: characters, the setting, and the action. Make them into three lists. And on each one you have a minimum of 3 spots. So characters. Just start off the top of your head, put down 3 different characters. Give them, you can be general. It could be 12-year-old boy, 20-year-old woman, robotic dog. Very kind of random things. Settings, you could have forest, you could have farmland, you could have post-apocalyptic city. Action, you could have Last Boy on Earth. You could have the Jetsons, basically, or something like futuristic family dynamic. Whatever else. But you take these lists, and the more you have in each section, the better, because you've got choices. You want to have these choices, because you can then take from each of these sections and start pulling out ones that you find really interesting, or ones that you think connect together. So you might have all 3, 12-year-old boy, 20-year-old woman, robotic dog. Setting, post-apocalyptic city. Action, Last Boy on Earth. Those 3 components, you've just now got the very beginnings of a story. Take those 3 things and then start to brainstorm about them. You brainstorm, you start working out your ideas, you make those ideas a little more full-fledged, and then you have a good idea of what your story's about. Then all you have to do is start to write about it. Now, next week we're going to look at the beginning of the writing process a little more in depth. I'm going to talk about how I write, what I choose to do at the beginnings, um, and the repercussions that that has later on in the writing process. So until Tuesday, for the Wide World of Geek, this is Baka signing out.